I need your help. I have 0 minutes left in my day, but I still want to fit in things like reading the Bible, doing devotionals, doing a gratitude journal with my kids, talking about what they're thankful for, praying during the day. And I want to help them grow spiritually and emotionally and be well rounded people, but I have absolutely no time. What can I do to fit these things in every single day with my kids? Well, guess what, guys? I have a very easy way to do this that I've been doing for years that I want to share with you today to easily fit in spiritual and emotional growth with your children every single day or most days in a way that's super simple and easy and foolproof. So let's get into it. Glue. It's messy, it's sticky, it gets everywhere, but it's also really useful. Just like the glue that we need to put together the pieces of our life as busy working moms. We have after school activities, we have homework, we have cleaning, we have laundry, and, we want to spend time with our kids as well in the process and maybe even have some time for ourselves. This podcast is for the busy moms out there who are balancing work, life, and everything in between, and we all know that in between encompasses a lot of things. If you're a mom who wants to do the best in all areas of life but still have time for yourself, this podcast is for you. I love to interview other moms and find out what works for them, get ideas from them, get inspired by them, and learn, we're all in this together. But I also like to share my own tips, tricks, struggles, triumphs, and share it all with you. So grab a load of laundry, lock yourself in the bathroom, go for a walk, do whatever you got to do, but I am just so glad you're here. Hey Glue Sticks, Sarah here. I absolutely love creating rituals and routines and finding ways to just make my life easier as a mom, as a woman, as a wife, and just a friend, a daughter, all of those things. So I really like to make routines and rituals for my life. And I also like to share that on my channel and my podcast just to help you guys, inspire you guys, and help you figure out ways to streamline your life as well. And the reason why I love routines and rituals is because it takes the thought work out of your day. In a lot of ways, it helps you fit in things you really want to fit in without having to really think about it. So you're just building it into your day, making it a routine. And so it just becomes second nature. You can do it on autopilot and don't have to think about it. So that way you can actually spend time thinking about the things that are new, that are improving your life in some way and progressing yourself in some way. So I love talking about rituals and routines. And that's what I'm talking about today when it comes to spiritual and emotional growth with your children and bonding as a family, because I know as busy moms, especially busy working moms, you already are so filled to the brim. Every single day is overflowing with things to do, and it's so hard to fit in those things that are really important, but you feel like I have no space left to fit them. So how can I possibly fit these things in? But you don't want to get to the end of your motherhood journey while they're in your home and look back and think, wow, I really could have done a better job in these areas. So I'm going to talk to you about how I fit these things in and then give you some ideas at the end of the episode about how you can do this for your own life. So let me know if any of these sound like you. You need 5 more hours in the day to get everything done that's in your head. You barely have enough time to do laundry, clean your home, get food on the table, and you can't possibly imagine adding anything else to your plate right now. You want to have connection time with your kids, but you have no idea how to fit that in, and you're exhausted by the end of the day. You want to teach your kids about Jesus or your faith if it's not a Christian faith. You want to spend time talking about what they're grateful for, visualizing, maybe doing affirmations, but you literally have no extra time. If any of these sound like you, guess what? You're in the right place. Today, I'm going to be talking about a super simple way to add all these things in without feeling like you're adding a ton of stuff in and getting overwhelmed. And so, like I said, I love routines. I feel like I should be called the queen of routines because I just love them. And I've had comments on multiple social media platforms saying you must feel a lot of pressure to schedule every minute of your day, because I know when you're just seeing a small portion of my life, it probably does look like that. But in all honesty, I have a lot of flexibility to my day. We have hours of unstructured time where we can play, we can go for walks, we can run errands, we can do whatever. But I also have these key points in my day, what I'm going to call anchor points. I just made that up, but I like the idea of that because they anchor our day. They anchor our family. They are things that we do every day. And I like to build in routines for those things. And I do have those running like a well-oiled machine? Do they happen at the exact same time every day, down to the second or minute or even half hour? No, not always, but they are expected, and my kids are just used to them. If we don't do them, they think, something's missing. They ask about it, and it's just really great to have these anchor points in your day, grounding you, grounding your kids, and there's something to hold on to. And so when I'm thinking about adding in a new ritual or something that I want to do with my kids on a daily basis, I try to attach these new things to these anchor points so that it's something we're already doing every day, so I don't have to remember in the middle of the day or during our random walk that we have to do this one thing. No, we're going to tie it to something we already do at home every single day. And that way it becomes part of our routine, part of our habit, and runs on autopilot just like everything else. And so I don't even have to think about it anymore. I don't have to think, how am I going to fit in the Bible today? How am I going to fit in prayer? How am I going to build my kids up? How are we going to fit in gratitude? I don't even think about that anymore because I've already taken the time to build these into our day. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today, how I do this, and then give you guys some ideas because everybody's life looks different. You may not be home all day with your kids. You may work outside the home or work part-time, or your kids may be in school, but you're at home. Like, there's so many different factors here. So I'm going to share with you what I do, but give you some tips and ideas for how to do this for yourself. And I really hope you can come away from this episode, if you're on a podcast app, or video if you're on YouTube, and have some ideas of things you want to add to your day to enrich your lives, to bond with your kids more, to really help them become well-rounded individuals and fit in those things that are so important to your faith or your family or your values or whatever it may be, and be able to fit those in every single day moving forward. So chances are you already have these anchor points in your day, but you don't really think of them that way. I'm going to name a whole bunch of them. You may have all of these. You may have a few. You may have some of your own that you do, but we all do most of these things. So maybe you wake your kids up every day. That's an anchor point. That's something you do every single day. Maybe you get them ready. Maybe you have breakfast together. Maybe you send them off to school, or you go off to work, or they go to daycare and you have a send-off goodbye period. That would be an anchor point that happens most days out of the week. Maybe you have lunch together. Maybe you guys do snacks together. Maybe if you have a send-off, then you have some kind of return or reuniting with one another. That is another anchor point. Maybe you have supper together, and maybe you do bedtime, bath, that kind of stuff together. So those are all anchor points, things that you do every day, just part of your daily routine as human beings, as members of society, that you do pretty much every day that you can anchor other habits and routines into, which I really love doing. So in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, he talks about habit stacking. This is something I've been doing for years. I just didn't know what it was called, or I didn't know it was a thing. I just did it. And so that's a lot of what we're talking about here. You're just stacking on extra things to habits you already have established. So hopefully you already have some kind of bedtime routine with your kids. So you're going to add on maybe one or two extra things to that so that you're fitting it in and it's not taking a bunch of extra time, and you're not having to like corral the whole family and start something brand new. You're just adding it into something you've already been doing. And it helps your kids to adopt this habit a lot easier and not even really question it. And it helps you make sure you're following through because it just becomes part of your day. So I'm going to take you through my anchor points and the things that we do to help our kids grow spiritually and emotionally during these times. So the very first one is waking up. So my kids get up, we brush teeth, we do hair, we get dressed. But during this time, something I really try to do is I really try to be in a good mood during this time because I want my kids to get the best version of me right away. Now, this involves me getting up early. I get up at 4 a.m. I have a bunch of videos and podcast episodes about that. I will link in the show notes for you guys. But the reason I do this is because I'm introverted. And if I start my day with my kids needing me and having their behaviors and mom, right away, I get really upset and cranky, and I don't want my day to start like that, and I don't want my kids to get that version of me right away. So by having time to myself most mornings, I'm in a good mood, and I try to kind of pep myself up before they get up to get myself in that mood. And this just helps us as a family. It sets the tone for the day. So this is something, do something, listen to a good song or pray or do whatever you got to do before your kids are up, before you greet each other in the morning, so that you're in a good mood. I think that's really helpful and sets the tone for the whole day so that all of these things can work out well. One thing we do, so, when they wake up, we go down and I get stuff ready. I run around like a crazy person, and then we have breakfast together. And some things we like to do during this time, we're all sitting down together. I always ask them, what are you grateful for today? Sometimes we've written it down, other times we haven't, but I just like to always ask that. And we also like to pray during this time, to pray for our day. This is something I'm trying to work harder on remembering and building into my routine too, because I sometimes forget because it's still new. But just like you can add these things in and eventually it becomes a routine. I didn't just wake up and all this stuff happened. I thought about it and I figured out the best ways to fit it in. So we like to pray over our day, do our gratitude, talk about what we're thankful for. I share what I'm thankful for. They share what they're thankful for. And I try to really encourage them to pick specific things instead of just saying like my family every day. I say like, what about your family? What do you love to do with your family? What's your favorite thing about your family? Things like that. So they're being really specific because we know there's research that says the more grateful you are, the happier you are. And I just want my kids to be the opposite of entitled. I want them to be very grateful. So we build this into our day. It's just a natural thing that we think about at the start of the day. What are we thankful for? If you want to add in a gratitude journal, if your kids are a little bit older, have them draw a picture or something, that's even better. But you don't have to be super complicated with it. You could just ask the question, what are you grateful for today? We also do something where I always like to make sure we give each other our morning kisses. My oldest daughter, if I forget, will be like, Mama, you forgot my morning kiss this morning. So I try to just really start my day loving on them, greeting them with happiness, kissing them, hugging them, loving on them, telling them how much I love them, because I just think it starts our day on such a positive note. And even if I'm like still upset with them about something from the day before and kind of cranky, it just helps me get into that mindset of like, okay, you love your kids. It's a new day. It's going to be great. Like, don't let yesterday influence today, that kind of thing. So I just try to really start the day with a lighthearted, happy vibe. We also like to read during this time. So this is just a great way to fit in reading. I love to fit in reading with my kids during meals. So we do this during breakfast and then we also do it during snacks. So in the morning for our reading during breakfast, I will read a chapter or two of a chapter book. If you want to fit in like a devotional or maybe Bible during this time, you definitely could. It really just depends on what works for your family. You could also fit in Aesop's fables. Maybe you'll do a fable every day or some kind of story about a virtue or something like that. You can really fit in character trait learning and things like that, or emotional learning during this time. So if there's a topic or something you really want to fit in with your kids, you can do it while they're eating breakfast, if you have breakfast together, or lunch, supper, snack, whatever it is, because they're already sitting down and focused on an activity. Their hands are busy. And that way you can kind of kill two birds with one stone. And I love doing this. I just think it works so well. And that way I don't have to remember to read to them later. It's just part of our day. I don't even have to think about it. And then another thing I really like to do with my kids to help kind of with their emotional growth is to preview the day. I've been listening to the audio version of Simplicity Parenting. It's a very good book. And he talks about previewing the day with your kids and how this can really help them with anxiety. It helps them to know what's going on, especially with younger kids, because they don't always have a sense of time. They don't know how long a week is. They can't really picture that. So I like to always preview what's going to happen in the day during breakfast so they know exactly what's happening. I just think it's a really great thing to do because sometimes we have it all in our head, but our kids might be kind of anxious. They don't remember if we're going to the zoo today or if they're going to school or they have that shot that they're getting later or they have their preschool screening or what's happening. So it's great to preview the day with your family at the start of the day. So another anchor point we have is the send off. Right now, my 6-year-old is going to school. We will be homeschooling in the fall, so this will look a little bit different, but we have a send off where she goes to the bus and gets on the bus. So during this send-off, I really like to do a few things that build in spiritual and emotional growth that don't really seem like it on the surface, but they are great habits to get into. And maybe you're already doing things like this. First of all, I love to make sure she's getting hugs and kisses, giving our family hugs and kisses and feeling loved, like she's not just leaving and we're, disregarding her. I try to focus on her until I can't see her anymore, because I don't want her to feel like we just send her off and then go about her day. I want her to know that it's a big deal that she's going. We love her. It's good for her, but we do miss her. I also always tell her the same line. I tell her to shine her light bright. I think this is a great way to fit in some kind of saying you want to stick with your kids for life. I know my mom, when we would get home every day at the end of the day after school age childcare, she would pick me up, drive me home. And whenever we got home, she would say, "Home, sweet home," every single time. And to me, that has just stuck with me for many, many years later, that home is such a wonderful place. And when you're home, it's like your refuge and you're so happy to be home just by her saying those three little words every single time we came home. So I made it a point to say, shine your light bright today, have fun, be a good girl, love you, miss you. But I always say, shine your light bright. My 3-year-old now also says it to her. And it's just a great way to remind her that she is a light, that she has something inside of her that is special, just as all of the kids at school do, and that it's important to shine that light, to be a good person. And we've talked about what that means for our family. And it's just a good reminder to her. And it's something that I hope sticks with her for the rest of her life. When she goes to her first interview, she'll remember, shine your light bright, be the best version of yourself you can be. And it helps her remember that God is with her. And all of these other things that go beyond just the saying, shine your light bright. So I love having some kind of key phrase to say to my kids. I know people who have said like they put on the armor of God before school and they actually like put on the belt of righteousness or whatever. I forget all the things, but you actually go through with your kids. And I think that's a really great thing to do. Maybe you have a Bible verse that you say together. Anything like that, I just think is a great habit to get into, because it's going to trigger in their mind eventually without you even saying it, and they'll be able to recall it later on. And I just think that's a wonderful skill and thing for our kids to have available to them. Another thing you can do as the send-off is pray over their day, pray over their journey. I think the more we can build in prayer as Christian parents, the better. It just gets our kids to see like prayer is just a normal everyday part of your day. You're just talking to God throughout the day. It's not this like special thing you always have to sit down and kneel to do. You can just talk to God all day, and it's helping you remember God throughout the day and just really honor that our life is in his hands and that, we trust him. I think that's just a great thing to do throughout your day whenever you can build it in to do so. So then another anchor point for us is lunch. So I have lunch with my 3-year-old, my baby, and then sometimes a little boy is with us, and then my 6-year-old if it's not a school day. So we like to pray at lunchtime. And we like to just talk about our day. I know that doesn't seem like a huge thing for spiritual or emotional growth, but I think the more you can talk about your day and your kids' days with them, you can really go through and talk about what were the hard parts. What did you do in that situation? What could you have done better? What are your favorite things? I really loved how you calmed yourself down when you got upset when she took your toy or whatever. You can kind of replay those things from your day at meal times and help them kind of debrief and really analyze what could have been done differently and give them those skills in a neutral place at a neutral time when they're no longer triggered or upset. Just as the send-off is an anchor point, so is the retreat or the reuniting is also a send-off. So when my 6-year-old comes home, I like to always greet her instead of like, we're usually upstairs. So I usually, instead of just being upstairs and letting her come up, I always go down to her. I greet her, I hug her, I kiss her, I tell her I'm so excited that you're home. We missed you so much. I just think this is so important for our kids to feel wanted and loved. You never know what version of your kid you're getting back to you at the end of the day. They may have had a really, really hard day and just be like holding in so much emotion. You just really don't know. So I really want them when they come home to feel this is a safe place. You can let it all go here. I'm here for you. We miss you. We love you. Maybe they felt really lonely all day, or they felt like their best friend hurt their feelings or abandoned them and they feel like nobody loves them. I want them to know the second they get home, they are loved, they are cherished, we miss them, and that they are still a huge part of our family, even though they're not with us all day. So I love to just greet them with love and warmth. And then, of course, I don't try to over bombard. I think kids get really wound up at school, even teenagers. So I like to give her a period of like just unwinding and debriefing. But I do always want to make sure she feels loved and cherished the second she comes through our door. So then after some unwinding time, we have snack. And that is another time where I love to read. Usually we read some picture books. We sometimes will read a chapter book or listen to an audiobook. It's just a great time to fit that in. And then another thing I sometimes will do is have the kids compliment each other during this time. It's just kind of a fun thing to do every once in a while, especially if they've been fighting a lot. We just go around and say something, like we pick my 3-year-old and then everybody goes around and says something nice to her. My 6-year-old, the baby, that kind of thing. And it just makes everybody feel good. And it's a good practice to compliment one another, and that's a great time to do it. So a huge anchor point in a lot of homes is supper on nights that you can. I know sometimes you're rushed with activities, but obviously the best thing you can do is eat supper with your family. There's been so many studies on it that it's so important and just a great way to come together, especially if you are really busy working outside the home. Kids are in school, like you're not having a lot of connection point. This can be a great time to do so. And so we fit in a lot of things during this anchor point. We pray as a family. We have a set prayer that we say from a little kid book. So even my 3-year-old can say it, and it's helping them learn to pray and what prayer sounds like. We always talk about our highs and lows of the day. This is something I know a lot of people do, but it's teaching your kids about emotional growth. You may not be thinking of it in that way, but it definitely is. If you're sharing, what was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? What was the time you felt fearful? What was the time you felt sad? What was the time you felt excited? Getting those feelings out. You're talking about feelings. You're talking about how to work through them or what you did and how you could improve that or why that really worked well. This is all great for emotional growth for our kids. And it's so important and will carry them so far in life. We also have a thankful jar that we plan to open at the end of the year, like New Year's Day or New Year's Eve. And so sometimes during supper, we will add to that and write down something we're thankful for. It's just a fun activity, especially if your kids get kind of antsy at the table. It can give them something to do while they're eating or avoiding eating. And then we like to talk just about our favorite parts of the day. I think it's just fun to hear. And instead of just asking your child, like, what did you do today? I will ask my 6-year-old, what did you do in Phi-Ed? What did you do at recess? What did you play with? Did you talk to this person? Because I really try to get to know all the names of the kids in her class. And I will ask, what did your teacher say about your bow today? Or did she like the picture you gave her? And I try to just really ask specific questions. This helps our kids feel that we actually listen to them and understand them and are involved and invested in them. And you get more of an answer than just, I don't know, or it was fine. And I know as they get older, sometimes it's harder, but the more specific questions you can ask, the better results you'll get with their answers. We also have a mealtime devotional book that I will link in the show notes. It's a great one for families, and it works better with slightly older kids, but you can definitely start when they're younger. It's talking about different characters in the Bible, different stories in the Bible, and, it asks different questions about what you would do or why did they do it this way. And it's great questions to get your family talking at the table. And that's a great way to build both spiritual and emotional growth, depending on what the devotional is about. And then I also have, as a last resort, if supper is just, we're really trying to get everybody to stay at the table or we're kind of getting sidetracked or antsy, I have a little tin box filled with family questions. So it's just random questions about all kinds of things. Like if you were a superhero, what superpower would you have? If you were the parent, what rules would you have? Things like that. It's just really fun to talk about those things, and it's bonding you as a family. So I love that. And then our last anchor point is bedtime. Our kids are still young. We're still laying with them, reading to them at bed. And I've started this years ago, building in Bible and devotional time at night. Now, when we start homeschooling, we will be doing a lot of this during the day. But for now, this has worked well with both my husband and I. We're working full time. Couldn't fit it in during the day, so we did it at night before bed. So you can do this as a family. We typically do this individually. We just found our girls do better individually at night. They get kind of hyper if they're all together. Sometimes we have to do it all together, but if we can, we divide and conquer. I will lay the baby down, nurse her, and then we'll alternate which child we're laying down each night. So, I'll lay down my 6-year-old, my husband will lay down the 3-year-old, and then we'll switch the next day if he's home or I'm home. And so with each girl individually, they have a Bible that is specific to their age. We've gone through many, many, many because we've been doing this for so long. We've read through the Bible many times in many variations. But I just love this time. We read one Bible story every night with them. They're in different spots, but reading these over and over again just gets them so fresh in their mind. And I just feel like I did not do this as a kid. No shade to my parents. Like this, is not something that all families do, but I feel like I didn't know a lot of the stories because I would just hear them at Sunday school on Sundays. But my kids are getting so many times these have been read to them that they are remembering them so well. Like I'll read the title of one of the Bible stories and they can tell me what happens in it because they've read it so many times. And it's helping me as a parent also grow spiritually because now I'm remembering so much more. I'm remembering how, especially in the Old Testament, like everybody's linked together and what order it all happens in. And it helps me just to dig deeper. And the more I know, the more I can teach them as well. And the more we go through these, the deeper the questions, the more they understand, the more we can tie it to Christ and foreshadowing and all those things, and really the wonder of God and so many things. And the more you read them, just the more your kids kind of wonder about them and it's clicking and they have more questions, especially as they get older, they understand things in a different way. So it's just wonderful. So we do one Bible story a night. Does not take very much time at all. This really does not add a lot. We do read like 1 to 2 picture books with them as well. You can also read a chapter book, but we do the picture books, then we do the Bible, and then they each have devotionals, and we've gone through many of these as well. Just find one that works well for your kids. My 6-year-old loves these. Our 6-year-old loves these more scientific ones. There's one called Indescribable, and one is called How Great Is Our God, where it talks about different things in science and space and nature that are really interesting, and then it ties it back to God in some way. So we're learning something cool. Often we'll end up looking up something on my phone, like a video of that thing, because it's just so cool to learn about. And then it ties it to God, which is really cool. Our 3-year-old loves like ones that are for like little princesses and stuff like that, and they're a lot more easy for her to understand and get through. But they're just great to go through. You can talk about it. You can say the prayer. You can say the Bible verse. Take it as deep as you want to take it, or if it's a night where it's kind of hard, you just read it and that's it. But at least they're getting exposure to it and getting used to the practice of doing a devotional. And that's another thing with all of this stuff. At the end of the day, even if all they are getting out of this is just the habit of it, I still think that's a major win. If they are just getting in the habit of reading the Bible but don't actually get anything out of the Bible, it's at least a start. And I think that way the habit can carry them into adulthood where they can really dig in and learn. Of course, I think they're going to get a lot more than just that out of it. Same with prayer. Like maybe they're not getting a whole lot out of praying right now, but they're getting a lot out of just the habit of doing it and it being just a part of who they are and a part of their day. So I just think these things are so great for at least just the habit of it, even if they're not getting a ton out of it at the younger ages and things like that. And then the very last thing I do with my kids is I try to just build in some time to linger, to cuddle, to ask about their day. Often this is when their fears come out, the wrongdoings come out, the times they were embarrassed, the confessions about something they did or something they saw somebody else do will just come pouring out of them because I give them space and time and love to do so. We just I really try to end the day on such a great note with them, loving them, cherishing them, holding hands, rubbing their hair, stroking their cheek, like just making them feel so loved and important and like they're the only one in that room. We pray, we have a set prayer we do, and then I ask them if there's anybody that we love or know or something they've heard about that they want to pray for. I think this is a great thing to do. I also do this at nap, I forgot to mention, but I do that with my 3-year-old before nap. We pray together and we have the same routine. And so it's just a great time to allow them to pray for somebody. You can either have them say it. My kids still have me say it, and my husband say it, but I let them choose who they want to pray for. And yeah, my 3-year-old often will pick like food items or her stuffed animals to pray for. But then I also say, okay, now who's somebody we know and we love that we could pray for? And that's kind of just teaching them how to pray and why we pray and what kinds of things we pray for. And it also just builds that habit. And I think it's just such a great thing to do. So we're praying multiple times a day. and we're ending our day with that. And I pray for the next day and that they'll have a good day. I pray for, if they're having a rough time, if we've been struggling with each other, I will pray like that we can get along better and things like that, or they can get along better with their siblings. So you may be thinking, well, that's all fine and dandy. That's what you do, but I don't know how to fit this in for me. So let's break this down to make it work in your life. So first of all, you need to ask yourself, what are the anchor points of my day? Do we have breakfast together? Do we have time in the morning that we're like just playing together? We built in this habit that we do every morning. Do we have a send off where I send my child off and I have 2 minutes that I can fit anything in? What about the reuniting, lunch, snack? Maybe beyond that, maybe you have a commute time together where you're in the car together. That would also be another anchor point. Maybe you drive them to school or drive them home or drive them to soccer or drive them wherever. That would be another anchor point. You could fit in some of these things, talking about your day, listening to a devotional podcast or some kind of value-based story on a podcast or an audiobook and then talking about it. You can pray during this time. You can do those things we do at supper, talking about your day, your highs, your lows, your favorite things, your gratitude. You could sing an uplifting hymn or something on the way to school that fits in like a lot of different lessons you want them to learn and just sing it every day. Seriously, there's so many different options here. You just got to be creative and think outside the box. So think about what are those anchor points where we're together that anchor our day, those things that we do every single day that we already have routines around to some degree, that I can maybe slip in 1 or 2 extra things during that time. They don't even have to take a long time, 1 to 2 minutes, depending on what it is. And then you need to ask yourself, what are some things that we have not been doing or not been doing consistently that we want to fit in? So I've talked about Bible reading, devotions, prayer, gratitude. Maybe you want to do visualization with your kids. Maybe you want to have an affirmation card and do that. We had been doing that, and I plan to do that once we're homeschooling again. Maybe you want your kids to memorize a scripture. How could you fit that in? Maybe you want to learn about different virtues or values. Maybe you want to learn about the presidents and have them memorize that. Like you just want to fit in learning in your day. That's great too. What are some things that you want to add into your day that you're not currently doing at all or not doing consistently? Write those down, think about those things. And then I want you to just pick 1 or 2 of those. Don't start with every single one because you're going to fail. Just pick a couple, 1 to 2, and then figure out, when could I add this in? When would be a good time to add this in? When is my kid receptive to this? Do I fit it in before bed? Do I fit it in on my commute? Do I fit it in at supper time? Do I fit it in right before they go to school? Like, when do I fit that in? Maybe when we sit down for homework, we learn a hymn or something like that. Like, when could you fit it in? And then figure out a way to remind yourself of that. Either putting a rubber band on your wrist. This is my breastfeeding reminder. But maybe you have something like that to remind yourself. Maybe you have an alarm on your phone to remind you. Maybe you write it in a area that you see a lot and you just tape it up there so you remember, or you have a schedule that you follow or your planner and you write it in there. Find some tangible way to remind yourself so you don't forget, and then do it consistently for a while before it becomes routine and you don't have to write it down anymore. You don't have to have anything remind you, and then you can add in 1 or 2 more. I think this is so great. Or maybe you will just revamp one whole time of day. Like I've revamped our bedtime routine years ago to add in the Bible and the devotional because we weren't fitting it in. And that, I did a few different things we added in at one time. So you can also do it that way. Maybe you're going to start a whole new routine and add these things in and add a few things in at one time, but it's all at the same time of day. You can also do that instead of just picking 1 or 2 throughout the day. So there's options here. I just encourage you to really live intentionally. This is all about living intentionally with your kids. It's not about overwhelming yourself with things to do. These are the things that really matter. These are the things that your kids will look back and it will stick with them. They'll remember laying in bed with you and how you made them feel. They may not remember exactly what you talked about. They'll remember how you made them feel. They'll remember that you cared, that you poured your heart into them. They'll remember that they were loved and that you valued these things, and now they value these things too. I just think of all things in life as parents, The most important details of parenting are truly the details, not the big Disneyland trips, not the amazing suppers. It's the little tiny details that you do every single day. And I just think these things are so important. I'm so passionate about this. And I will do whatever it takes to encourage more parents to fit these in a way that's easy. It's not overwhelming, but it's actually, making our kids better people, making the world a better place. So it's a great place for all of us to live in the future, and that we're, living Christ-like lives and teaching our kids to do the same. And it doesn't have to be hard or overwhelming. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It just really came from my heart, and I hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. If you are liking this podcast, I would greatly appreciate if you would go over to the iTunes podcast app and then find Work Life Glue on there. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and you can leave a rating and review. The ratings are amazing, but the reviews are so important too for people to read and actually get feedback about how you view this podcast and what you think about the content. So I would really, really, really appreciate if you guys would take a few seconds to go do that. If this episode meant anything to you, it would mean a lot to me if you could give back to me in that way to help others find this podcast and to help bless other moms out there who are struggling or just need some encouragement. I would love to be that encouragement for them. So thank you guys so much. Go get something done. Go love on your kids. Go live your dreams. I'll talk to you soon.